Homage to our root teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha.
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 It is rare to hear the teaching of the Pratimoksha Sutra,
It is rare to hear the teaching of the Pratimoksha Sutra,
and it may take countless great eons to encounter it.
and it may take countless great eons to encounter it.
Studying and reciting it are also rare.
Studying and reciting it are also rare.
Practicing it is the rarest of all.
Practicing it is the rarest of all.
So it is rare, isn't it? Yeah. And especially we did not grow up in a Buddhist culture, and somehow we managed to meet the Dharma and have exposure to it and be able to meet teachers and have Dharma friends and so on. Even, in my generation, it was much more difficult. Yeah, there weren't Buddhist centers in America at that time, or there were a couple here and there, but that was it. Yeah. And then you even go the generation before mine, and not so many. There were ethnic temples, in both the generation before mine and my generation. But I didn't speak Chinese or Vietnamese or Laotian or Cambodian, and the temples all taught in their own language, which they should do, but I couldn't understand any of it. Okay, so encountering the Dharma like this, it really is quite rare. So this morning I wanted to talk about the monastic mind. Yeah, you say a verse every morning at the end of your morning practice, right? On the monastic mind. So I wanted to go through it line by line, because sometimes when you say something a lot, you forget what it means. You have it memorized, but you don't focus on the words when you're saying it or reciting it, because you're already thinking about what are you going to do and what's for breakfast. So I think it's good to always go through the meanings of the recitations that we do so that we remember them. And I think the monastic mind is really crucial. As the course goes on, you'll be, and especially after the ordination, which is on the 10th, you'll be learning the precepts one by one and so on. But I think that if you have a very sincere monastic mind, then you automatically will follow the precepts. Okay? Sometimes without even being told. Because if your mind is in the right place, then you know what to do and what not to do. And it's interesting because the way the precepts arose at the time of the Buddha is at the very beginning. For 12 years, there were no precepts. The Buddha just said, "Come, O bhikshu," and, the bhikshu that was your ordination. Yeah, very easy. And there were no precepts, and people had very pure minds, so they listened to the teachings and they followed them, and there was no need for explaining day-to-day behavior and how to construct a community and everything like that, because people's minds were already, those people who ordained, their minds were already directed towards virtue. It was only after 12 years that one monk made a big boo-boo. Okay, and I'll tell you that story in a minute. But after that, as different monks made boo-boos, and boo-boo sounds like something sweet, like a little kid makes a boo-boo. No, I'm talking about he made an egregious, is somebody saying the word right? Egregious transgression, he really blew it. So as the story goes, there were 6 naughty monks, who kept on doing things that were really inappropriate. So all the bhikshu precepts came from them. Okay, when they started having bhikshunis, then the bhikshunis inherited the precepts from the naughty monks. Plus, there were also 6 naughty nuns. So the bhikshunis, that's how they got more precepts. The monks didn't inherit the precepts from the naughty nuns, but the nuns had to get the ones from the naughty monks. So the nuns have more precepts than the monks, okay? Which means that we have more of an opportunity to really refine our behavior. But like I said, if you have a monastic mind at the beginning, then your actions just naturally flow in a good direction, okay? When you start studying the precepts, as shikshamanas, you won't go into a lot of depth of studying them. When you're fully ordained, then you really get the whole package with, all the different levels of transgression and all the different levels of making amends and the exceptions to the rule. And it's like a legal code, and you have to be able to figure out what level of transgression somebody committed, and how to make amends for that. But like I said, if you really have the proper mental state from the beginning, then you don't get into those kind of problems very much, if at all. Okay, so this verse is called Monastic Mind, but it's also for lay people. Okay, because training our mind, it doesn't matter what color clothes you wear, and what hairdo you have. It is what's going on inside. Okay, so I'll go through it line by line, and we can discuss some of it. So a monastic mind is one that is humble, imbued with the Buddhist worldview, dedicated to cultivating mindfulness, clear knowing, love, compassion, wisdom, and other good qualities. Okay, what page is? Okay, so there's a lot of things in there. This verse is going to take a while. Okay, so first thing, a monastic mind is one that is humble. So we approach life with humility, with an awareness that everything we know, everything we have, every talent and ability we have comes due to the kindness of others. So instead of approaching life with, here I am, da 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 da, the world should be very happy to have me in it because I am so terrific. Okay? And I am somebody, and you should know I am somebody, and respect me. Okay, so you can see there's a difference between approaching life with a sense of interdependence and gratitude and approaching life with wanting to be a star and thinking that you are, of all the stars, the most magnificent. Okay, so maybe not in the whole universe, but, what is it? You're a big fish in a small pond. So, however big your community is, you are the star. And uh, and there's a certain, what happens when we approach other people like that? We are not humble, are we? We put ourselves up. We put others down. We don't encourage new talent because we think we are the talent, and we don't want anybody else to challenge our ability. So we don't share what we know or teach people other things. Okay. Uh, so then, what does humility mean? Some people think humility means low self esteem and being a little timid mouse. Yes, I'm very humble. You people are all so great. You know, no, that's not the meaning of humility. My theory is the people who are arrogant are the people who don't have good self esteem. The people who are genuinely humble, I'm not talking about being mouse like, but genuinely humble, are the people who have self esteem. Why? Because when you don't believe in yourself, then you need to manufacture a production to make you appear to be somebody. When you believe in yourself, you have no need to do that. Yeah. The incarnation of Serkan Rinpoche, his previous life, was my root teacher. When he was just very young, because I knew him since he was 5 years old. This lifetime, previous life, he was quite advanced when I knew him. But this lifetime, and we were talking one day, and he said, I don't know how old he was at that time, maybe 10, 12. He said, if I'm a good cook, I don't need to tell everybody I'm a good cook. I just cook a meal, and then people see for themselves. So the same way, if we are confident in ourselves, we don't need to draw attention to ourselves and make a big deal out of ourselves. Yeah, because that confidence is there. We don't need other people to tell us we're magnificent. We don't need to be center stage. Yeah. So I'm not saying that nobody should be center stage. Yeah. And I'm not saying everybody should be quiet and timid, because humility is not being quiet and timid. Yeah. Humility is an awareness of our interdependent existence and our place in it. Yeah. That we are one among many. Yeah. So, in one way, just being one, we are not very important because there's many. In another way, being one, we are important because what we do matters and we can influence a lot of people by our actions. So, we're both important and unimportant. Okay. So, I think humility has an awareness of that. And it, we know how to fit into situations. Yeah, we don't fear respecting people who are worthy of respect. We don't have to tear them down to show that we're good. Okay, this runs into some of the precepts in the Bodhisattva precepts. Yeah, about praising self and belittling others out of attachment to offerings and honor and so forth. So a person who doesn't feel secure is a bit arrogant, praise themselves, belittle others, yeah, puts themselves in front to be the big star, and so on. Okay, so humility is not always putting yourself in back, but knowing where to fit in. And when you're with people who um, who don't have that same confidence, you are totally okay with giving them the the floor, unless what they're doing is detrimental to the group. Okay, so I'll give you one example. If you've ever been to His Holiness's teachings in India, there is a section for Westerners, which is usually too small for all the Westerners who come, and we are packed in like sardines. almost literally sitting on each other's lap. So, and of course, everybody wants to be up front and see His Holiness. You don't want to sit behind a pole. The best thing is to be along the route where His Holiness walks, And the Tibetans are like this when His Holiness is walking. The Westerners are like this. Is he going to make eye contact with me? Is he going to look at me? Oh, I'm so excited, Okay, so um, really, it's like that, and uh, so when you're usually new or newly ordained monastic, of course, finally I get to sit in front. Except actually, the Westerners don't let the monastics sit in front. They, it's first come, first go. The Tibetans would never sit in front of the sangha, but the Westerners, sure. Who are you? Okay, but anyway, the younger sangha usually, go up front, and oh, I'm sangha, I get to sit in the front. And so I remember one teaching when His Holiness was teaching, and some of you may know Venerable Nicky Vreeland. He's one Kyungyo Rata Rinpoche's principal student, and with a center in New York, and now he is the abbot of a Tibetan monastery. Woo! Good luck, Nikki. And yeah, and I remember one teaching His Holiness was giving, and all these other people wanted to go sit up front, and Nikki and I are sitting in the back, and we're the two most senior sangha there, and you get to a point where you don't care. You've been to so many teachings. You don't have to be in the front row. You don't have to see His Holiness. Other people want to do this, let them do it. It doesn't matter what the rules are. I'm totally fine sitting in back. Okay? So you just get into a place where, you don't have to step up and be like that. Let somebody else do that. So, yeah, so I've sat behind poles in many teachings, and it's okay now. Now they have screens; you can watch His Holiness on the screen. Yeah, but actually, when we're at teachings, we shouldn't be uh, ogling His Holiness like this and trying to catch his eye. We should be listening to the teachings. Okay, so this is a whole attitude. So we have ordination order, the way people sit. Yeah. Does it really matter where you sit? Yeah. When we do the Amitabha chanting, does it matter who goes in front and who goes behind? Does it really matter? If you happen to be standing in one place and somebody else is standing in another, and you aren't in ordination order, are you going to quick reshuffle to get an ordination order? Or if somebody's in front of you, are you going to give them a dirty look? That's my place. I go in front of you. I was ordained 3 months in front before you. Oh, 3 months, that's so long. You must be so very experienced in those 3 months. So it's humility is a mind that doesn't, you sit where you're supposed to sit, but many times we can't sit in the order, and it doesn't really matter. So we just sit where we sit, and it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, do you think everybody else is looking at you and saying, who's in front? Look, I know the ordination order for all the bhikshunis and all the shikshamanas, and this person's out of order. Oh, goodness. Yeah. Does it really matter? Okay. So, and really learning to accept situations, especially being a monastic in the West, where it's not a Buddhist culture, people have no idea how to treat monastics. And monastics have no idea how to carry themselves because there's no models. You know, our Theravada friends uh, really stick to the way it's done in the Theravada tradition. Yeah. Um, but our tradition is, the Tibetans are it's a different culture. They're more relaxed about some things. Yeah. And yeah, not so. Yeah. So there's different things for different people. Yeah. But just how to know. But I was brought up our Theravada friends because they even made a booklet about how to treat monastics, how to care for and feed your local monastic because there's so many rules about what time you eat and what order people go in, and you have to hand the food to them in a certain way and say a certain thing. And so they have a whole booklet instructing people how to do that. We don't do that, you know? We don't have the lay people lift up the table and offer the food to the Sangha every time. We cook ourselves, you know? So we aren't doing things as formally as they do. And I don't think that hurts us one bit at all. In fact, I think it's quite good. Yeah, because we learn to be responsible for ourselves instead of just expecting everybody to do things for us. But yeah, another example of humility, uh, which many of you probably heard me speak about before, but this really sticks out in my mind. This happened in 1989, and it was the time when His Holiness won the Nobel Peace Prize. That was the year he won it in. And he was at a conference in Irvine, California. Uh, at he was at that conference and also at a Mind and Life conference when the announcement came that so he at the big conference, it had a few thousand people at it in Irvine, um, wherever it was around there, and it was a panel of experts. And I forget what somebody asked His Holiness, but they asked him some question, and His Holiness paused, and everybody's waiting. Here's the Dalai Lama, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, and he's going to tell us the truth. And His Holiness said, in response to the question, "I don't know." And the auditorium went silent. It's like, oh, the expert said, "I don't know." He's obviously not American. No American would say, "I don't know," in front of a crowd. Would they? Yeah? Well, just watch how other people are. And then His Holiness turned to the other experts on the panel and said, "What do you think about this issue?" And then pulled out their ideas. And, the reason that has stuck in my mind so strongly is because you don't see that behavior in many people. Yeah, if you are presenting something and somebody asks a question and you don't know the answer, what do? You say something to humiliate the person who asked the question, insinuating that the question's dumb and that they're dumb. You change the topic. You make up an answer that has nothing to do with what the real answer is. But you definitely don't say, "I don't know." And you definitely don't call on other people there to answer the question for you. Okay. So you can see, what humility looks like. And His Holiness was not feigning humility when he was doing this. Yeah, there wasn't the feeling, look how humble I am. I'm letting these dimwits answer the question. No, he just was being himself. Yeah. So when you're a monastic in the West, you never know how people are going to treat you. Okay. I've been walking down the streets, and uh, I remember the Kala Chakra, 1989 in California. And you'd walk down the street and people would go, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. No, I'm not a Hare Krishna. Um, so people would do that. Sometimes you would go to a Dharma center and nobody's there to greet you. You just somehow figure out where you're supposed to go, or one person kind of shows you, and you're in a room, maybe it's a residential retreat, and so there's a long line of rooms where the participants in the course stay, and you stay in one of those rooms. Okay, yeah, not fancy rooms, community bathroom like that. Other times you go to Dharma centers and people are so formal, and you arrive and they bow to you and they have flowers and they bend over and escort you to this incredibly, beautiful room. You don't know. Yeah. And you just have to go with whatever is and not judge the people according to that. I'm happy to have a place to stay. I'm happy to have food. That's it. It doesn't need to be the best room, the fanciest room, and all this formal blah blah. Okay. And then if it because if you go and you're the guest in some place, and then you start saying, do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have the other? I want this. I want that. Then you become a real pain in the neck for the hosts. Or they say, many people say, help yourself to everything in the kitchen. So then you go rummage through all the cupboards and, see what stashes they have here and there, and take all the nice, expensive food that you really like that you never get to eat at the monastery. No, when they say help yourself to whatever you need, it means if you're making tea, you can have tea and some sweetener and maybe some milk. It doesn't mean you rummage through the cupboards. Okay? So, yeah, humility has many different levels. Yeah, but it's an attitude of how we see ourselves amongst others. Mhm.
So, how do you stay humble but stand up for your rights?
Give me an example.
An example is, say, you're the last to the lunch line and there's someone ahead of you, and there's very little food left, and they take all the food and they don't leave you with anything. It's sort of advocating for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very seldom that all the food gets taken. There's usually something else that remains. So you eat what remains.
Or you're, a nun and you're not treated the same as a monk. What is it appropriate to say, hey, can you move? I can't see. you know
Um, you have to be very delicate with these things. You know, if if some big monk is sitting in front of you, you could politely say, "Oh, could you just move a few inches to one side?" But you don't go, "I can't see and you're big and fat. Can you just move a bit?" That's not going to create good feelings. In those kind of situations, yeah, it's very often, I mean, you see what the situation is, but very often you just leave it. Okay, one example, Geshe Sopa's teachings in Madison. So the nuns are in the front row. So I'm a senior nun, I'm in the front row. Okay, so then behind me are more junior junior nuns, also bhikshunis. Okay, so there's one nun. Yeah, we have a few characters who are nuns. Yeah. So she's much bigger than I am. She always has some health problem, and her health problems, everybody has to know what they are, and they're dramatized very often. And so she would sit behind me, and she came in and she had many pillows. So pillows she sat on, pillow under this side, pillow under her knees. Then, of course, she had to have a big table because she had her books and her pen and her whole thing. And she was always asking me to move. Okay, because she needed more space. Yeah. And so, can you move here? Can you move there? So, what I started to do, yeah, is I realized this was going to go on every day for the whole course. So, I started when she sat down to turn around and say, "Can you see? Do you have enough room? Do you want me to move?" And then she would tell me, and it was great that way. Okay. And if I had turned around to her and said, you're really a pain in the neck to sit in front of me. Why are you always asking me? You have plenty of space. You don't need to bring so much stuff. That's not going to create a very good feeling, is it? Yeah. So better to ask her, do you need me to move? I move a little bit. Big deal. Okay.
So it sounds like let it go most of the time. But being humble doesn't mean becoming invisible and not
Right.
communicating your needs to others.
Yeah, but it depends what your needs are. If they are genuine needs, like I'm really hungry and I need some food if I'm going to give a talk tonight, that might be a need. A want is, I am a nun and you should treat me this way. Yeah, we are wanting to be recognized, wanting to be respected. But we need, on what grounds should other people respect me? Okay, I've been ordained longer. So, is my mind more virtuous than other people's minds? Is it? Yeah. No, my mind is not the most virtuous mind sitting here in this room. So, why do I need to, promote to make sure other people respect me because I'm a nun? Okay. So, you try and sit where you're supposed to sit, but if other people are sitting there, at a big public teaching, I just leave it. I go sit in the back. It's fine. Yeah. Sometimes people go, "Oh, you're senior, come sit up front." I'm okay. If they push me, I'll go up front. But otherwise, I am perfectly happy behind. I mean, because the important thing for me is to hear the teachings. It's not where I sit. Okay. When I went to the teaching, His Holiness was teaching in Hamburg, I was so jet lagged. Yeah. And so I sat, there was the stage where the Sangha was sitting, and I sat down below because I was super jet lagged and I didn't want to be disrespectful in His Holiness. And the people at the private office are saying, "Go up on the stage, go up on the stage." It's like, no, 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 I want to stay here. Okay. So I didn't want to make a big deal of, everybody's already seating and then I go up on the stage. And then I'm so jet lagged that I fall asleep. No, I don't want to do that. I sat down in the audience with everybody else. It was fine. Yeah. Okay. Then there's other times. I don't know how I'm going to get all this done in this session, but this is typical for me. Um, Another time, Yeah, there's a few real doozies. Okay, when I was in Italy, there was some of the monks who were really not very nice, and then there were some monks who were kind of friendly and nice. So one of the monks who was friendly and nice, one time we were talking, and he said to me, "You know, you really should pray to be a man next life." Yeah, and I went, "I thought you were my friend." This is what I thought inside. And I didn't say anything. You know, it's like, it's such a ridiculous remark that why am I going to say anything to it? Yeah. And other times, there's another one, a monk who was senior to me. Um, yeah, he sometimes had a bit of a difficult personality. But one time was some kind of sangha lunch, and I went to sit at a table where he was, and he said, "This is a table where the monks are sitting. Go sit somewhere else." So I went and sat somewhere else. You know, what am I going to do? Make a scene? Yeah. If he has problems with his arrogance like that he feels the need to proclaim this is a monk's table and chase a nun away, that's his problem. Yeah. When you're in the teachings in India and you go in, all the younger monks are charging past you and they're pushing and shoving. Yeah. And if you turned around and tried to correct every young monk, forget it. Who's been to public teachings in India? Have you? Yeah, many of you have been. Yeah, you know what it's like. Yeah. And I mean, the young monks, they're full of energy and they got their water bottle and their piece of bread and they go charging in and running. Yeah. And then when they serve tea, they come with these hot pots. I mean, these big teapots full of boiling tea. And they're not, I mean, the Chinese, when they serve people in the monasteries, it's so polite and so graceful and dignified. The Tibetans, a totally different culture. So these little boys literally are running across the courtyard. You see, I'm not lying, they've seen it. Running across the courtyard with these hot pots of tea. And you better get out of their way if you want to live, because they are not going to detour around you. And then when they start pouring the tea, you know, some of the tea gets in your cup and some of the tea gets on your clothes. And that's just the way it is. And you can't say, this is my new robe, you idiot young monk, why don't you mind your manners? Didn't bring me a towel, there's hot tea on my thing, I got burned, I'm going to sue you. We're not at McDonald's where you sue somebody when you get a cup of boiling tea. That's happened at McDonald's, So, this is the way it is, and you just adapt. Yeah. And you either adapt or you freak out. Two choices. There's nothing in the middle. Okay? Is there? You either get used to it or you freak out and go home. So it's good training. It's very good training. Yeah? And when you're in India, nuns are nothing. And very often, even in things here, nuns are nothing. That's their problem. Okay. I talk about this kind of issue with some of the Tibetans that I'm friends with in a discussion that we have as friends. But in actual situations, I don't call people out. It's just there's a group and there's things going on, and this it's not appropriate to make a scene. Okay, should we go on from? We did one. That was a monastic mind of one that is humble. Okay, we got through 2, 4, 6, 8 words. Let's go on to the next phrase. Okay, imbued with the Buddhist worldview. Okay, so this is really, really important when you're approaching Buddhism, is to get the whole worldview. There's a particular take on life, and how we see the world that the Buddha presents. That is very different than how the world sees, how worldly people, I should say, or the world in general, sees the world and our place in it. Okay. So, if when you studied history, that in the West, uh, everybody thought the earth was the center of the universe. I mean, everywhere China was called the middle land. It was the middle of the universe. So everybody thought world's flat, we're the center, the sun revolves around the earth, everything revolves around the earth. And they were so shocked when Galileo said, that's not the way it works. And as science discovered more, and we are this tiny little speck that is totally insignificant compared to the unending limits of the universe. Okay. And how shocking that was for people, on this planet. But if you grow up, or if you're imbued with the Buddhist worldview, or more of an Eastern Asian worldview, yeah, then you have this idea of multiple rebirths. You have this idea of many different realms, that there are many sentient beings living in different life forms throughout this universe. Yeah, we don't have to send things in space looking for other life forms. There are other life forms. Many of them don't need water to live. Yeah, that's how on planet Earth we think we'll detect if there's other life forms, as if there's water on that place. According to people's karma and the body they take, there are bodies who don't need water. Yeah, they have some other kind of sustenance. And so you have a whole, different view of this universe as being populated by countless, countless, countless living beings of all different sorts, each of whom is going through their own individual experience at this very moment. And some are happy, and the majority are not. What produces happiness in some and suffering in others? Their own actions, the karma, the actions they did in previous lives or earlier in this life. Yeah. So there's no God creating the whole mess. Yeah, it's created by our mind. If there were God, then God would really need the complaint box. Yeah. Because God would be the source of all of our problems for creating things the way they are. Okay, in Buddhism, there's no divine being, there's no creator being who controls everything, who manages everything, whose will we have to obey, or who wills certain things to happen, who punishes and rewards. Yeah. The Buddhist worldview, there's none of that. Yeah. There's no idea that you've been born a sinner or that you are inherently shameful and there's none of that in there. Yeah. The whole idea is based on how we think and feel, how we speak and how we act. Yeah. That leaves, for lack of any better word, but this is an inaccurate word, some kind of energy trace, we call it a seed, that will ripen in the future and will influence who are born as, what kind of life form we take, whether it's in general a fortunate or unfortunate rebirth. Our actions influence what kind of environment we live in, whether it's one full of violence or one that's peaceful. It impacts what we experience in our life, how others treat us. It impacts our habitual behavior. Okay? So if you have a Buddhist worldview, yeah, you never say, why is this happening to me? Yeah. My mother had some, I don't know, maybe your mother said this too, but when I was naughty, yeah, my mother would say, what did I do to deserve a kid like you? Okay, did anybody else hear that when they were little? Yeah. So, like, what did I do to deserve this? Well, if you understand karma, you understand what you did to deserve this, And it isn't an action, it isn't a thing of deserving. Nobody punished you, by making you sick or giving you a naughty child. But you created the causes. We all created the causes for what we're experiencing based on how we treat other people and the actions we do. Yeah. So, what did I do to deserve this? Well, if you study Buddhism, you can make some pretty accurate guesses. You may not know the exact situation in your previous life, but there's some things you can intuit. It's kind of logical. Yeah. So, similarly, yeah, when we get sick, why am I sick? Why me? Yeah. Why me? Why does this happen to me? Well, again, if we have some idea of how cause and effect works on an ethical dimension, then we understand that when we experience happiness, it's because we did something virtuous and kind. If we experience suffering, it's because sometime in the past, could be a previous life, we acted in a very unkind, self centered way. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? I mean, New Age says what goes around comes around. The Bible says you reap what you sow. It's the basic idea of we must take responsibility for our actions. Things do not happen by chance. Yeah. and and that fact that we have responsibility for our actions gives us power. If everything were fated, if everything were predetermined, then we couldn't do anything about our situation. Yeah. But because there's no fate, there's no predetermination, there's nobody else outside deeming you're going to suffer, you're going to be happy. Since we're the ones who create the actions, that means we have the power and ability to change our experience. Yeah. So a Buddhist worldview has that idea. Yeah. And when you really integrate that idea, and this is hard, it takes time, a long time. Yeah. But when you really integrate that idea in your mind, then you don't blame other people. Okay? Yeah. You don't say, I'm suffering because of so and so. You say, well, I created the cause for it. It does not mean I deserve to suffer. It does not mean I'm a bad person. It simply means that when you plant daisies, you grow daisies, and when you plant chili peppers, you get chili peppers. Okay? So I planted a bunch of chili peppers in the past, and now, I'm experiencing this burning result and my stomach hurts. Whatever. It's the same kind of idea like that. So it takes away all the idea of blame and fault. Yeah. And this is something that we have to get used to. When we grew up in a theistic Judeo-Christian culture, is coming in and, oh, no, there's no reward and punishment. There's no fault and blame. Yeah, there's responsibility, and things happen due to many, many causes and many conditions. And the things that happen to us are not all good, and they're not all bad. So let's take away this whole thing of who's to blame, who's at fault, because we always want to find one person, point the finger at that person. Yeah. So there was just a school shooting a few days ago, and four teenagers in a high school in Maryland. No, Michigan. Yeah, in Michigan were killed, and several others injured, I believe. So, okay, so the kid who did it, 15 years old, just ruined his whole life, ruined the life of four other kids, traumatized the whole high school, traumatized the whole town. Actions of one person. Okay. Do we blame him for everything? Yeah. What's very interesting is for the first time, his parents have just been arrested. Yeah, because they share some of the responsibility. The district attorney or the prosecutor, whatever they call them, determine. Why? Listen to this story. So 4 days before the shooting, the father took his son to a gun store and bought him a gun. It was a Christmas present. And then, the next day, the kid posts on social media, here's my new beauty. And here's a picture of the gun. And then his mother posts something about, this is a mother son event, going to use his new Christmas present. It sounded like they went out maybe to do some shooting or something. Mother wrote this. Okay. Then, the day before the shooting, one of the teachers or somebody in the school sees the kid on his phone looking up ammo, where to buy ammo. And they get alarmed. They tell the school administration. Okay. So they call the kid in. They talk to the kid. He has no prior disciplinary record. Who knows what they said, and that was it. The mother, when she found out about this, emails her child and says, LOL, laugh out loud. No, I'm not mad at you. You just have to learn how not to be caught. Yeah, shopping for ammo. Okay, then the next day, the morning of the shooting, a teacher finds a note that the child wrote. And there's a drawing of a dead body. Yeah. And he wrote blood all around. He wrote, "The thought won't stop. Please help." So a teacher saw that. He went into the, I guess, principal office, admin office. They called his family, so his parents came. So they talked to the parents. The parents didn't want to take him out of school. They let him stay in school. Yeah. No one opened his backpack to check to see if he had a gun in his backpack. They were having this this conference about your kid is, there's signs here that he's troubled and he's thinking about doing something violent. No one checked his backpack if there was a gun. The parents refused to take him home. The school admin let him go back to class. And then, I don't know how much time later, the shooting started. Okay. So, for the first time that I remember in a school shooting, the parents are being held responsible. I mean, and you can see why they're being held. They don't have the same responsibility. The kid is getting charged with counts of murder and he's being tried as an adult at age 15, tried as an adult. This is brutal. Okay, and this kid's life is, but they're charging the parents with involuntary manslaughter because the parents, there were ample warnings that the kid was troubled and something was happening, and they gave him a gun. And then, he's shopping for ammo at school. Parents just say, "Don't get caught." After news came out about the shooting, then the mother uh, texts her son and says, "Ethan, don't do it." This is after the news came out. The father then texts or calls the cops and says, "I think my son may be the shooter." So the parents knew the child was in danger of doing something like that. They didn't do anything. Do they have some responsibility? Yes. Okay. Then there's talk, what about the school? When the parents refused to take the child home, they let the child go back to class because he didn't have any prior disciplinary records. And some people are saying, no, they should have kept the child somewhere else until school ended. Where are you going to put a child in a school where they're not going to harm themselves or harm others? So it's difficult for the admin. They're not, not trying to do this. I mean, when I went to school, nobody thought of school shootings. There was nothing. Yeah. And now the admin has to think about these things. So the point I'm getting at is that rather than just point at one person, oh, this kid, he's like the devil, or oh, these parents, they're disgusting, or oh, the school, blah, 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 or oh, the gun manufacturers, or oh, whatever it is, to see, and there's so many causes and conditions that had to come together. Yeah. In my view, the legislators who don't make proper gun laws have some responsibility in that. I would say also the people who make the firearms have responsibility. Legally, no. Morally, yes. We have to realize that what you get in trouble for legally is not the same as what you experience result from ethically. Yeah. So Kyle Rittenbarm, he's out free. Yeah. He created the karma of killing 2 people and injuring a third. Yeah. He's not free of that karma unless he does some purification, and pretty intense purification. But he's not going to do that because now he's become the star of the right and all the gun enthusiasts. So okay, hold on. So my point here is that when you have the Buddhist worldview, you see multiple causes and conditions. You don't just blame 1 or 2 people for everything. You see that it's just this complex thing that's going on. Yeah. And some parties have more responsibility than others, and they'll experience the result of their own actions. So it doesn't matter, if you win the battle in a worldly way, karmically, you still will experience the result of your actions. Okay, so you look at Trump and everything that went on. You look at Mao Zedong, at Stalin, at Hitler. Many of these people were triumphant. They were adored by their population. Okay, but they will experience the results of their own actions in the future lives. Yeah. And we don't sit there and go, hey, you're gonna get it, and rejoice over sentient beings suffering. That's not how we react. This is okay. So part of the Buddha's worldview is you don't wish harm on others, and you see that when people harm others, it's because of their disturbing attitudes, their disturbing emotions, their wrong attitudes, their wrong views. Yeah. And so you talk about the action, being bad, but you don't say the person is evil. Yeah. And we don't rejoice when other people get punished because that person is just like us and they want to be happy and not suffer. And they're just like us and they're under the influence of their mental afflictions. So there's automatic, the more you adopt this Buddhist worldview, then there's automatic tolerance and forgiveness. Yeah. And you know that forgiveness does not mean what those people did was okay. It was not okay. But you're not going to hate them and you're not going to wish them to suffer because of it. What you wish is for them to learn from their error and to change their ways and to develop wisdom and compassion.
With the story that you were telling us, Venerable, about the child, the teenager, and the gun, and some other things that have been that are happening lately, I think there's the theme that comes to my mind is that just because something is legal doesn't mean it's good, and that people confuse those 2 things. They surrender their wisdom, they surrender their better judgment to the law, and sometimes to their detriment. And I see that is what's happening now. Also, the kids have also now a pass card for buying drugs because drugs are legal now, and so they must be good. Same thing with alcohol; it's legal to drink, so it must be good. So there is this conflagration of the 2 things, that legal means good, and without further analysis and without further wisdom, then it can completely take us into some deep holes.
Yeah, very good point. And so often you'll find in the sutras, the Bali talks about the worldly being or the world and Aryas. We're kind of somewhere in the gray area between, but he really points out the difference in how a worldly being thinks and looks at things, and how an Arya, somebody who's realized the nature of reality, how they look at things. Yeah. And so this is the whole thing on the Buddhist path, is really to develop our own wisdom, yeah, and think about things deeply. Yeah. It is not a path where somebody says something and you go, I believe, or whatever you do. Yeah. So it's very important that we think about things, we analyze them, yeah, we develop our own wisdom, and we ask questions. Yeah? So in some other faiths, you do not ask questions. It's kind of, you learn very quickly that you're not supposed to ask questions. You're supposed to be quiet and believe. Buddhism is not like that. Okay? So we have to exercise our wisdom and develop it. Okay, is that all of the Buddhist worldview? Probably not, but it's some of it, okay? What's the next one? Dedicated to cultivating mindfulness and clear knowing. Okay, now these are two things that are vastly misunderstood in worldly society, secular society. When we talk about mindfulness in Buddhism, it means the word mindfulness relates to memory and remembering. It doesn't mean just paying attention. Yeah, it's remembering what is virtuous. In the context of ethical conduct, it's remembering your precepts. It's remembering your values, because you want to live according to your values. You want to live according to the precepts that you have voluntarily taken, because you know that they will help you grow in the way you want to grow. Okay, so you're more mindful. You remember these things when you're going through the day. Then the one that here it's translated as clear knowing. um, I usually translate it as introspective awareness. It's also translated as vigilance. Okay, what else? Vigilance. Yeah, there's several of the different translations. The Sanskrit is sampajana. Okay, so these two are kind of best friends. They really help each other. With mindfulness, in the context of ethical conduct, we remember our precepts and our values. And then with introspective awareness, we check up, we monitor our actions, and we are aware, am I following my precepts? Am I following my values? Am I living sincerely with integrity or not? And we find out we're not, then introspective awareness presses the alarm bell and reminds us, oh, better to apply an antidote and get yourself back on track now. Don't keep going down this slippery slope. In the context of developing concentration, mindfulness is aware of the object on which you are developing concentration. And mindfulness functions to keep your attention on that object and not let it stray to other things. And also in the context of developing concentration, then introspective awareness, again, it has the function of monitoring the mind, and it kind of monitors, am I still on the object of meditation? Am I getting drowsy? Am I distracted? What am I distracted by? Is it attachment? Is it anger? And then again, if it sees we're going off the object or whatever, it rings the alarm and says, this is figuratively, don't get a headache. because it rang the alarm in your brain. No. But it says, be careful, and apply the antidote, get yourself back on track. Okay. So we're a Buddhist, a monastic mind wants to be aware of how we want to live and live accordingly. In secular society, mindfulness has now come to mean just being aware of what's going on. Yeah. And that is not the Buddhist context of it. Yeah. Mindfulness in Buddhism leads to wisdom because you're focusing on what is virtuous, you're focusing on what is good. So it develops your wisdom. It's not just, oh, I'm getting angry. Yes, I'm getting angry because I think that person is a real jerk. Yes, I'm thinking about all the times when they were jerks before. And I'm planning on saying something to them so that they know that they need to behave. And I am very mindful of all of that. No, that's not what mindfulness is. Okay? That is one variety of stupidity. Yeah, we have many varieties of stupidity. Yeah, so it's not just, oh, what's going on in my mind. It has wisdom, it has discerning. Yeah, what should I practice? What should I abandon? What actions bring the kind of results I want to have? What actions bring the kind of results I don't want to have? Yeah, and then helping us to guide ourselves properly and reminding us the clear knowing or the introspective awareness, reminding us to practice the antidotes if our mind is getting overwhelmed by a disturbing emotion or a wrong view or whatever. Okay. Then love and compassion is the next thing in a Buddhist worldview. So love is the wish for others to have happiness and its causes. Compassion is the wish for them to be free of suffering and its causes. It sounds like a simple definition. Okay. In one of our discussion groups someday, probably not this course, but maybe with the SDDs, the Sharing the Dharma Days, we should do a discussion on what is the Buddhist meaning of love, and what are the causes of happiness, the happiness you're wishing for sentient being. Because in a worldly way, what's the cause of happiness? Money, power, respect, getting what you want, good job, pleasure, yeah, good reputation. Yes? Yeah, I'm waiting for somebody to say that. True love. I find it so interesting. They write about people who are now going looking for love. What?
In all the wrong places.
Yes. Well, no, they're looking for love, but you go on some dating app because everybody there is looking for love. And when you meet somebody, the whole criteria you look at them through is, are they going to love me? Are they worthy of my love? Yeah, because somehow you find the one and only, right? The one and only, and you will live happily ever after until, and then you can fill out the rest. Okay, true love, popularity, social recognition. Yeah, gifts, praise. Okay, so from a worldly viewpoint, when we talk about wishing people to have the causes of happiness, that's what we wish them. Good health, okay, a Medicare plan that includes dental, hearing, and glasses. Yeah. So this is the kind of thing that we wish for people. Just wait until you get on Medicare and then you'll see. Okay. But, you know, from a Buddhist viewpoint, those things may be the conditions, which may or may not cause happiness. Okay. A good job may cause you happiness, but it can also cause you a lot of misery. Okay. A good reputation may cause you happiness, but may get you entangled in all sorts of problems too. Okay. Fun, pleasure, drinking, drugs, they may make you happy, but they may dig you a hole. You dig yourself a hole and go sit in the bottom of it with your alcohol and your drugs. And okay, so that's what worldly people consider the cause of happiness. What's the cause of happiness from a Buddhist perspective? Yeah, virtuous actions. Putting our minds and emotions in a productive way. Yeah, using our body and speech in a kind way to be of benefit. That's the cause of happiness. Yeah, but most people in this world, they wouldn't say that that's the cause of happiness. Yeah, they would say just what we were talking about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what are the causes of suffering that we want others to be free of? Yeah, what do people have sometimes that makes them suffer? Besides a daughter like me. No, I wasn't always bad. But what do people suffer from? Yeah, yeah, afflictions. Heartbreak. Oh yeah. What's the result of true love in the end? Heartbreak. Anybody here who's never had true love for as long as it lasted? Anybody here who's never had heartbreak? Yeah, we're most of us are quite familiar with that. You may be saying, well, you're a nun. How do you know? I wasn't always a nun. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, heartbreak. What else? Bad health. Losing your job. Sometimes that is a huge blessing, isn't it? But worldly people see it as a problem. Aging. Conflict in relationships. Yeah. Loneliness. Police brutality. Death. Yeah. The big one, death. Okay. From a Buddhist viewpoint, what's the cause of suffering? Ignorance. That's the root cause. And what are the other causes that grow out of ignorance? Yeah, the other afflictions. Or sometimes we say the three poisonous minds: ignorance, clinging attachment, and anger. And then from there, the proliferation of 84,000 afflictions. Well, no, you take out the first 3. And yeah, okay. So, in a Buddhist way, when you love people, what you wish for them is very different than in a worldly way. It's not that you wish them to suffer in a worldly way, you don't. But in order for them to even have the worldly happiness that they want, they have to create virtue. Some people think that to have worldly happiness, they can get it through non-virtue. And this is what we see happening in our politics in this country. Yeah. The more you can accuse, the more you can lie, the more you can accuse other people of doing things they didn't do in the political realm, the more you can stir up dissent and create conflict and get some people on your side. Yeah, that's all non-virtue, but it makes you the big guy in the party. Yeah, it helps you win votes. There's this big thing going on now. And I mean, it gets so boring after a while, but I use these things in the news because they are such good examples. So, Ilhan Omar, the House of Representatives from Wisconsin, is it? Michigan also? Yeah, Michigan's in the news a lot now. Who's Muslim, one of 3 Muslims in the House of Representatives. And then Lauren Boebert. She's the one, Colorado, yeah, who had, before she was elected, maybe she still has it, there's a restaurant where they welcome guns and the display of guns. And she was the one who, said, I'm bringing my pistol into the House of Representatives. And so Boebert started accusing Omar of being a terrorist. And she made up some fake story, that she's telling people. It's like she tells the story that she was in an elevator in the House of Representatives, and all of a sudden she's seeing one of the Capitol Police looking very worried, running towards her, and the elevator's going to close soon. And she looks around to see who else is in the elevator, and Omar is in the elevator. But Boebert thinks, oh, she doesn't have a backpack, so I guess I'm safe. In other words, backpack indicates terrorism, suicide bombing. So, she doesn't have a backpack. She's not a suicide bomber today, but she's Muslim, so she really could be a suicide bomber. This kind of disgusting thing. So then, she kind of apologizes and calls Omar, but Omar says, I want you to make a public apology for it. And Boebert, gets fed up and says, no, I'm not going to do it. So Omar hung up on her. Then our favorite Marjorie Taylor Greene jumps in, and sides with Boebert. And then, of course, what's his name? The one who just got censored by the House because he did some kind of animation drawing of him killing AOC and beating up Biden. Yeah. People think America is the most powerful country, really together, democratic country. I don't know. But okay, so this is the latest thing that is all over the papers, okay, Yeah, the biggest thing. And then, of course, everybody else is just saying, Biden's fault is this, and this is wrong because of that person, everything else. And why are they doing it? Because the more noise you make, even you're lying, even you're calling people names, yeah, the more you get in the newspaper, the more people know your name. And when it comes to getting reelected, they will vote for you because if you're a Trump follower, because those people are appealing to Trump followers. Okay? And they think that behavior is the cause of happiness. Yeah, they want to be elected. I'm not quite sure why they want to be elected, because when they're elected, they aren't doing anything to benefit the country except say no. Yeah, or do nothing. So I really don't know why they want to do that. It must be the fame or, anyway, what I'm getting at is how people mistake the cause of suffering and think it's the cause of happiness. Yeah? And they have no idea that they're going to be experiencing the results of this kind of name calling and lying. And especially when you lie to a whole group of people, that creates disharmony. Because there's so much disharmony in the country now, that kind of karma becomes very strong. And these people have no idea about it, And I look at that, and to me, that's suffering. Having no idea that your conduct matters, has an ethical dimension, and you're going to experience the result, and you're creating the cause for very hellish rebirths. And they think that they're big cheeses and powerful. And that's a really sad situation when you see it, isn't it? And how much damage people can do because of their wrong views. Okay, so just another way of when we wish people love and compassion and the cause of happiness and freedom from the cause of suffering, we need to know very clearly what the causes of happiness and suffering are, and that we wish people the right thing so that they will actually find happiness and they will not find suffering instead.
It's a tangential, but it's related to your comment about the caricaturing and the general kindergarten atmosphere at the Congress. But it used to be. I was reading a book about the revolution and the drawing up of the Constitution and what happened during those first years with George Washington's presidency. And the Congress that used to do the same thing. They used to publish caricatures of each other and false stories of each other, and each party had its own press, so they'll go for it with a lot of gusto and invent all kinds of stories, and that was present way back when.
And they just passed it down.
Passing down virtue and precepts to hold, to have an ethical life, they pass down all these
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. I've explained the Pratimoksha Sutra. We now dedicate all the merit of studying the Pratimoksha Sutra so that all sentient beings may attain Buddha. So here you're seeing already in the Dharma Guptaka Vinaya talk of bodhicitta and Buddhahood.